Welcome along to the day 4 Zoom room of Goodwood, Glorious Goodwood, and we're going to also look briefly at the final day. And Silvestre De Sousa has one ride, but it's not at Goodwood on the Saturday. Sil, you've had a couple of thirds so far. How are you keeping?
Yeah, keeping good, yeah. And I've been hit the bar, like, a couple thirds and, fourths. And, they've been running well, but probably just wasn't quite good enough to get me there, get ahead in front, But, has been very competitive races,
His agent's doing a good job because he has 5 rides on Friday, so wait with us. One of them very, very interesting, a serial winner in the opening race. Speaking of serial winners, Flynn Goward, this has been a really good week so far for Star Sports.
It has. Typically, we call Goodwood Badwood as bookmakers because it's normally the meeting of the year that we just can't win. It comes in that specific point in the year where a lot of the form is known. Draw is obviously a big thing, and that's all out in the open. So it's normally very difficult to win, but we had 2 handsome winning days, day 1 and 2. And then today we were quite a bit behind and we managed to get out on the day somehow. So we won very, very small today, but we won decent the first 2 days. So I would say kind of 2-0 and then probably a draw today, but all to play for going into the rest of the week. But it's nice to have a good buffer.
All to play for 2 days ago. And Bill Esdaile, our man Sil, is riding a horse here. I'm just looking at Ian Williams' hydroplane in the 150. He's won 4 times over hurdles, once in a bumper, 3 times on turf, including that excellent victory from the front at Chester the last day, and once on the all-weather. Could be worse for him.
Yeah, he's got a big chance, hydroplane for Silv. Won well from the front at Chester last time. Gave you a nice feel, Silv?
Yeah, he has, yeah. I think he done everything I asked him for. He bounced out sharp and he was there for me. And when I asked him a question, he quickened quite well. But this race and looks like it's going to be plenty pace, So, and probably have to ride him different. But I think one of the fanciest horses give him plenty weight. So I just have to take that advantage at the same time,
He wore cheek pieces for the first time the last day as well after on his 31st start.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and everything worked out in his favor,
What do you make of it, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, just on hydroplane, I prefer if it was 2 miles, not 2.5, and I prefer if it was soft ground rather than good to firm. But those are the kind of concerns. I think Silv will probably share that opinion that he's probably, we don't know whether he stays a really fast run 2.5 miles or not, but Silv's won this race before from the front. He could easily do it again. This race is really interesting because there's a big gamble on this horse, Super Jack, Milton Harris's runner, who looks to be crying out for this step up in trip to 2.5 miles and fast ground. I tipped him in the paper like everyone has by the look of it. He was 10-1 this morning. He's now, Flynn will probably tell you in a second, he's a lot shorter than that. I think he's
100 to 30.
Wow.
100 to 30. So he's been a right plunge. This race is always a story of the horses at the top, the class horses with big weights against the improving ones at the bottom. Normally, when the improving ones at the bottom aren't there, the classy ones win at the top. So your Rashuns and Withholds have got lumps of weight to give away to the likes of Hydroplane and Super Jack. I think Super Jack will win. I think he's a real good fancy. When he won at Bath over 2 miles, 1 on fast ground a few starts back, he looked to be, the further they went, the better he was. Loves fast ground. He's got just 8 stone 4. I think he'll take plenty of whacking. The more that Rashun drifts, the more interesting he comes for an each way bet. I mean, he's about 13-2 or 7-1 tonight. He shouldn't be that. He's got loads of weight, but he's in form and he stays 2.5 on fast ground like loads of these won't. So I go in with Super Jack as the win and maybe Rashun for the forecast.
Yeah, just slightly frustrating with the 15 there for each way bets. But we get on to the first Group 3 of the day. And this looks like a more or less threes the field race, Flynn, the Bonham Thoroughbred Stakes between Bayside Boy and Berkshire Shadow.
Yeah, so they actually bet 7-4 the field. So Check and Challenge, who obviously ran in the Guineas earlier in the year, is 7-4. Bayside Boy's in there at 11-4. He's been over to France since. Berkshire Shadow is also 11-4. And then you're 11-2 bar in the first group race of the day.
I did actually forget to mention that horse, obviously, Check and Challenge, who was very good second. Actually favourite at Sandown the last day. Very likely race, Son of Fast Company, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, he's a difficult one to get right, Check and Challenge, because he's got a huge reputation. He won his 2 all-weather races, big gamble on him in the Guineas and was weak on the day. Beaten at Sandown last time, but just the penny dropped late. He ran like it was a 2-year-old making his debut. He was out the back and then he flew late home. Goodwood isn't really the place to get unbalanced and roll around a bit like he did in Newmarket. I think he's take honourable at around 7-4. I like Berkshire Shadow. He's the kind of outsider of those 3 that you mentioned. ran a cracker at the meeting last year, ran well in the Guineas, ultra consistent. Andrew Balding's team seems to be in form 24/7, 365 days a year. So Berkshire Shadow, I think he'll be solid. Really trappy race, but if I went for one, it would be him.
Yeah, and that is obviously 7-4, the field race. Sil's next ride is Urban, and this is a horse for David O'Mara. Sil, obviously, as we say, this week in, week out, deeply competitive. This horse ran well behind Fresh at Ascot the last day.
He has, yeah, and I suggest Dave and to if he goes up and trip with the horse, I think will beneficial. The horse is a horse. He needs a bit of give on the ground, but I don't think we're going to get that. But I think going up and trip will be in his favor. And he didn't run a bad race last time. Consider it was over 7 furlong, But I can't see him there, in the 2 furlong out with a chance.
Obviously, he's very, very interesting stablemate as well in this race. There are, what are we talking? Blue for You is round about a 7 or 8 to 1 chance, Flynn.
Yeah, 15-2 Blue for You. Just a quick show betting: 5-2 for Noble Dynasty, 15-2 for Blue for You, 15-2 Shining Blue, 9-1 Rebel Territory, and then 10-1 Bar. Just to touch on the fact that William Buick's on another favourite here. What a week William Buick's having. He's had 5 winners and he's had 3 seconds. So he seems to be on fire, and he's also on a lot more favourites this week to come. So just one to note there for the 3 o'clock.
Is he likely to make the running bill on this Noble Dynasty?
Yeah, well, this is one of those races that is, I don't think there's a more important draw race in the Canada than this race. A low draw around here is important. Silves bagged a real nice low draw on Orban, but the problem with Orban is he tends to make his ground up very late. He tends to be out the back. So Silves got that difficult dilemma of trying to rush him out, get a position, and then get a bit of cover, maybe sitting, I don't know, Sil 3, 4, 5, trying to sit in a position where you can kind of be prominent but get cover. But that's what everyone wants. And I think that William Buick will go forward on Noble Dynasty. Look, by the look of it, he could be the group horse running a handicap. The writing might be on the wall early with him. He could just be a very, very good horse that nicks it from the front. He's very short, like Flynn was saying. You touched on Blue for You. He's a horse that is knocking on the door. He was the one I went for in the paper. Each way, Blue for You, for the other O'Mara runner. Couple of seconds. I know a couple of the owners, and this has been the plan for some time, and ignored their text messages early in the week. Peter and Mike, apologies for that. They're saying it was such a great bet, 25 to 1, and here we are scrabbling around looking for 7. So they certainly knew. They landed a good draw. Good luck to those guys. But I went with him, and the other one I go for at a much bigger price is Uzo. For Jamie and Safi Osborne. I'm convinced that horse will run well. Was in that Sandown race. It's got a nice draw in 7. It tends to go to those horses in single figure draws. So yeah, cracking race, but the Godolphin horse might be the one to beat.
Before we get to Sil's mounted big price in the Qatar Stakes, obviously this looks like a race in which basically Rassel and Mitbahi are very, very closely matched on the Sandown form. One got a clear run, one didn't. How do they bet this, Flynn?
They're also closely matched in the betting. So Razel, which is 7-2 favourite. Mitbahi 4-1. Akram Express 5-1. That's been backed in from 15-2. So a bit of a move for Akram Express and Nigel Tinkler. I believe we saw a bit of money in that at bigger prices. So we're probably slightly under that one. Lazuli, again for Will Buick and the Charlie Appleby charge, is 13-2. 7-1 Cardham. And then your 15-2 Bar. Equilaterals in there. He's also been knocking around for a few years, isn't he?
Yeah, Acclam Express was 200th third in the King's Stand. Sil, you haven't actually ridden this Clarendon House before?
No, I haven't, no. But he's been running a couple competitive races, and last time was in France. And, I just hope they can go hard. Probably have to ride him a bit different with a bit of cover. And I hope they go hard and I can appear there in a furlong out, But looks like a very competitive race to me.
Do you like these sprints to have a bet in, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying Silver earlier in the week that Clarendon House was just touched off ahead by Razel, who's virtually favourite for this back in April, and he's £5 better off for that head. So he's waited to try and reverse that. The difficult thing about this race is they're going to go a ferocious gallop. There's pace everywhere you look. You look at them and you think Equilateral is going to go forward. Cardem goes like a scolded cat. Pontus goes really quick. Even Vertiginous, the rank outsider, goes really hard. So it shapes like it might set it up for a surprise closer, a Katura, a Mitbahi, maybe even Aklam Express. It's or Razel. Those are the ones that sit off, that pounce late. Look, it's a really difficult race for me. I'd play just on the prices. I'd probably be leaning towards card him because I think he'll go quite well, but it wouldn't be a race I had a strong view on. I think it could be a bit. I think there could be a surprise here.
The final group race of the day, Flynn, Rebels Romance, again, a bidding to continue. William Buick's good form, absolutely bolted up on Newmarket last time. Probably one of the shorter prices of the day.
Certainly is. 5-4 for Rebel Romance. Then your 6-1 Regal Reality, 8-1 Fancy Man, 8-1 Global Storm, 11-1 John Leaper, 11-1 Kamari, and then 14 Barber. It's another Godolphin, William Buick, Charlie Appleby favourite.
I guess the thing here, though, Bill, is if you're against this horse, you have a very nice each angle into the race, like the Regal Reality stepping up a trip, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I was against Rebel Romance last time. I thought it was a terrible price when he bolted up at Newmarket, and there's a touch of class about Rebels Romance, and I can see why they're smashing it up. But the shorter it gets, the more inclined you are to try and reach elsewhere for an each way angle. I ended up in the paper going for Fancy Man, the Hannon horse. My main kind of reason for that, I thought it was a really good run at Haydock last time. When he carried a big weight behind Get Shirty in a competitive handicap, goes back into group company, a bit to prove against some of these, but I just thought was more solid than some of them and might drift a bit out to kind of maybe a double figure price 10s. I thought Fancy Man could run well. Fair
enough. So let's get on to Sil's penultimate ride of the day, which is Explicit for Mark Johnson, who's had plenty of horses run well this week. And Explicit is, again, a horse you're riding for the first time, Sil.
Yes, has plenty experience and has been run quite a lot, few times. But I think we've been throwing the deep end and probably just going to ride that one for look. Mark got about 3 in the race, and but you never know. His horse is consistent running, so I just hope to turn up.
Yeah, I find them impossible to gauge, to be honest, Bill. But in general, if I oppose them, they tend to run well, and this is the type of horse that could run well at a good price.
Yeah, it is probably the one that could easily run well because it's his 9th go. Like, experience counts for plenty in this. Bolt Action was a horse that I actually fancied at Royal Ascot and tipped him, and he ran really well. He finished 6th behind Little Big Bear, only beaten 4 lengths. I think sometimes you have to sit back and ask yourself how many of these could get within 4 lengths of Little Big Bear, and the answer is not many. He's got a lot of weight off 9.9. Fun enough, we saw a Mark Johnson top weight at the nursery run disappointingly, but I think this horse might be a bit different. Bold Action, I think he's actually very smart, and I don't know what price he is, Flynn, but he to me would be the most likely winner. Bold Action.
Bold Action is 3-1 here, so 3-1 favourite. California Gems in there 11-2. Felix Natalis is 15-2, and then your 9-1 Bar. Sil's rides in there at 16.
Yeah, and Sil's last ride is John the Baptist. This horse is by Caravaggio. So I just note that he hasn't at all proven that he stays this trip, but they're sticking with the sort of middle distance kind of trip for the time being. Anyway, it's going to be a big price.
Yeah, it's a big price when you look at the trip and he's been running. His pedigree doesn't suggest that, but he ran a funny race last time out, and but I think we've been throwing the deep end in here, but I think he carry a hood now this time, and I just hope he can give me a kind ride and appear in the finish.
Yeah, he
looks like plenty of speed in the race anyway.
Yeah,
couple of front run. So.
And the hood will maybe help him settle. He actually, I remember him for Fozzie Stacky. He beat a reasonable horse first time out. The couple of very progressive horses here, Omnipresent for one, Bill, and the remarkable Chaos Corsair as well, going for the 5-timer.
Yeah, the Omniscient's the interesting one. Absolutely bolted up in the maiden at Yarmouth last week, but it's just the Mark Prescott
factor.
Yeah, and the mark of 81 could absolutely be a mockery, and that's why he'll be a warm favourite. We'll take plenty of beating in a race like this, but again, I don't know what price he is now, but he's going to be skinny. He's going to be well supported. I give a squeak to Sheer Rocks. I was actually at Chester today. That one, I think that could go quite well. So if the favourite's not too short, Omniscient and Sheer Rocks would be the two for me in that.
That's going to wrap up. Just last question for you, still on Friday. Who's the best of that quintet of rides that you have?
And I think in the 2 mile and 5, that'll be my best ride. And yeah,
very, very likable horse. Let's get on to Saturday. So Sil is obviously riding away from Goodwood, but we'll go to first of all to Flynn for prices on the Stewards Cup, which is a feature, another big sprint on the Saturday. Flynn,
Inver Park is your 8-1 favourite, so very, very competitive heat here. Mr. Wagoo's 8-1. When the Deal is Done is 8-1. Chill 10s. First Folio 10s. great ambassador 10s, and then you are 12-1 bar.
Yeah, there has been some controversy about the second race, the race that the horse didn't get into, not a track in a big field. This is not the case here. Obviously, Bill, a lot of familiar faces here.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces, very, very kind of wide open and trappy as you'd expect. You kind of go these, and it's like When the Deal Is Done's obvious, Inverpart, First Folio, Mr. Wagyu. They all have a similar kind of feel to them. I mean, the market says they're all the same kind of type. It doesn't feel like the strongest of Stewards Cups. It feels quite weak for it, without being disrespectful to Connections. It feels as weak as Stewards Cup as I can remember, which would lead me towards Chill at the top and Summer Hand. Previous experience. The angle with Chill is that she might well be a group sprinter who blew the cobwebs away far too keen at Newbury last time. Look, she's off a mark of 110, but we know she mixes it with, Emirati Anna and Winter Power. She's very classy, and Harry Davis takes £5 off. I thought Chill was a serious player here. And I also like Summerhand, who ran a really good race for the Amaro team at Royal Ascot behind Rohan, was fifth that day off 101, been dropped a pound to 100. And you just have to go back to his back show. He's got great form here at Goodwood. Won this back in 2020 off an £8 higher mark. So Summerhand, I think the fire still burns within. I thought Summerhand around 16 and Chill at whatever 10 or 12. Those would be the two I go to war with in the Stewards Cup.
Yeah, and keep an eye out for regional as well. I think it's only the second time Ryan Moore has ever ridden for that stable. But still, you're not even in Goodwood. You're at Newmarket for one ride.
Yes, and I was meant to be everywhere, and I went up in Newmarket. And but I got one ride there for Richard Hanna, and I think should be good. Should run well.
In these days of travel costs and climate change, I mean, you're going there for one ride. It's a tip in itself.
Yeah, one dog. One dog.
It's 5 minutes away from my place. So.
Johnny, just one other thing. Just I meant to say, one other horse to look out for, which I put up in the newspaper on Saturday, in the 210, the summer handicap, the big handicap at Goodwood, Bag Door, number 13 there for Neil Callan riding for Chris Wall. There's a very well handicapped horse there. It's around 9 or 10 to 1. I think it'll be a lot shorter, and I think it'll be very competitive on Saturday.
Yeah, and Sam Cook fans will be in Clover as well. Flynn, will you be there for the last few days?
I shall be indeed. It's quite nice that they've managed to move the race times forward on Saturday, so it'll be a getaway at 4:30 as opposed to 6 o'clock, which would be nice. But more importantly, hopefully it'll be 4-0 and the draw to the bookmakers as we close on Saturday.
Indeed. So it's 3-0 to the bookmakers so far. Still hoping for his first winner of the week after a couple of thirds. And he has 5 rides, as we mentioned on Friday. You got the inside scoop here on the Star Sports Zoom Room. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.